Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tangent Discussion. We are the Tangent Boys. We have on my left side, Truss, on my right side, Sierra82, on my lower right side, we have Wapox, and on my lower left side, we have Voidhawk. Welcome.
Uh, yeah, here we just, there's some people probably haven't seen this because this is the second time we do this and we are
Yeah.
still working on this. We just chat here and talk to things and go off tangents from our topic.
Yep.
And the point is to be off tangent from the topic until Chris reminds himself that we should be on topic, or Void. Uh, Today we're talking about games as a unique medium for experiences. I think we should talk, and I think it's legit to talk about it in references to movies and books, because those are the two clear ones I have, because just pictures is a very separate medium, and music is also a very separate type of medium, I think. So um, I'll probably. I think the person who should start this is probably Nem, uh, and say like, what do you think differs are the strongest points of games as a medium?
All right. All right. So I think that the obvious answer is the interactivity, right? But the question is, what does the interactivity actually entail for us? And what it means is that we can place ourselves in situations in a different way than we could with a movie. Like with a movie, we can experience how something would look and sound, right? But we cannot experience how it would feel. And I always like to bring up What Remains of Edith Finch, which is basically a walking simulator with a collection of small interludes. And one of these interludes is that you're working in a fish factory, right? And the thing the game captures perfectly is the monotony of working in this fish factory, right? Because you have to constantly complete these monotonous tasks, right? So you are using your mouse to grab fish, put them in the slicer, slice them up, throw them away. That you need to keep doing all the time. But as you keep doing it, your character starts daydreaming. And you can use WASD to control the daydream while you still do your job. And I have never before like experienced something that so well caught like the monotony of monotonous work, like how your mind just starts to float away, and that the way in which you can experience it is something I don't think you could do very well in a movie, because you still have to keep doing the monotonous task as you want to do the daydreaming thing, which is a lot more fun.
And that does sound really interesting.
Mm.
Um, because that because uh, experiencing boredom sounds really odd as an enjoyment thing. It just sounds like really weird. Um, but then we have
Sounds a bit
uh,
like an indie game, right?
It is.
um, but the thing that reminds me most to in game in is like Truck Simulator. But that's my bias. So talking because I've never played it, but it sounds.
But it's also like well, it's almost the same concept, but you have a bus simulator literally going to, I think, Las Vegas or something
Yeah,
like that,
Mm.
and
the
it
one that Penn and
takes
Teller made actually.
yeah, it actually takes exactly the same amount of time to drive there as it would in real life.
And for every time you manage to drive to Las Vegas and drive back, you get 1 point.
Yeah, but I really do find it interesting that you can make a game that is expressive and entertaining, yet the topic is boredom, which is really counterintuitive in my book.
Mm.
I also like the the comedian Darryl O'Brien made a sketch once about gaming, right? And he said that gaming is very interesting because it is one of the few mediums where you can be bad enough not to experience it, right?
That
You're
is
not going to
true.
sit and watch a movie in the cinema and suddenly the movie stops and someone comes up and goes, okay, so which are the main characters, what are the main themes, and where do you think this is going? And like, if you
And
answer
you
it
know,
wrongly, they go, nope, can't keep watching. Do it again.
And a few chapters into a book, it's slam shut. What are the main themes of the book so
Yeah.
far?
Yeah, and games is really interesting in that regard because games as a medium actually like requires some sort of skill to experience it. Because if you're just watching a game as a collection of cutscenes as a movie, then you lose the interactivity part. But the interactivity part in and of itself requires proficiency to a certain degree. Like no matter which game you are playing, it requires some sort of proficiency. And I also
Yeah.
find that to be rather
does.
interesting about it.
Yes, it does.
And that's where I find walking simulators been interesting topic because it's the proficiency level is very low, but you still have some interactivity with it, but it's almost a movie.
Yeah.
But it's still not.
But it's a movie where you can decide how long the main character stopped to look at the flowers.
Yeah, and I mean, if just that is enough for me to to make it a game in my
Yeah.
book. It's that there's very like big disagreements on this topic.
Yes.
Um,
A lot of people believes that games require fail states, for example. I do not ascribe to that school. I simply believe that, at least not, and I think the term game is a bit like misinterpreted here because I think what you're actually say is like interactive media in a way because not all of these things are what we would refer to as games in the ordinary sense.
No.
and mostly because
Exactly.
we call it the reason we call it games is because it was thought about as a toy from the beginning.
Yes, I mean it
And
was
Yeah.
marketed as a toy.
That's why, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why it's continued to do it. But as you said, it's more interactive media. Just look at what the VR has gotten us the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Most of them is not games. It's
No, and they are often marketed as experiences rather than games are.
Yeah.
Do we think it has something to do as well with that kind of first generations of games also were like digital versions of physical actual games, like card games or chess or something like that that are actual physical games, and was just like, okay, we got it physical, let's do it digital.
well, I think
or
it was a little bit earlier than that. You had actually, well, more or less reading games. So it
choose
was
your
more
own
adventure game.
adventures.
Yeah.
If I
Or make your own adventure, more or less.
yeah, because we had this choose your own adventure books, which are a lots older than computer games.
Mm.
And I thought, if I remember correctly, people started basically, oh, let's put this in onto a computer.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy.
Mm.
You just need to store text, and then A, B, C. This happens then, and if you don't do that, you just
Yeah.
don't do anything. And that's that's one of the what I would actually call the precursor to modern role-playing games.
Yeah.
Not that it's not taken in like it's not based on pen and paper role-playing games, but it's rather that the medium actually expresses itself more like choose your own adventure games
Yeah.
than an actual pen and paper role-playing game.
And I mean,
Which is go ahead.
I was gonna say, and the those kind of like experiences with the choose your own adventure books almost survive even to this day as visual novels, like Doki Doki Literature Club and such.
Yeah, that is it. It's very interesting that we have gotten that type of game and that still exists. It also says something that I think people miss about games is that every time it's about graphics and graphical improvements and things about that. I do think that the gaming media should go back and investigate how we interact with our games, because I think there's enormous possibilities of expression there.
Yeah.
And we do that as well. Like, isn't Last of Us one of those examples? I haven't played it, but
I've gotten the feeling that actually quite a few of the game, how do you say it, game journalists or those who review and write about games in different kinds of like e-magazines and YouTube reviews and so on, actually go into the they actually make the point that graphics are one thing, it's good with good graphics, but actually it's, I don't know, call it backlash or something like that. It's called some kind of reaction that we actually have to go back and write better stories
Yeah.
because the stories are actually like water thin.
Yeah.
But if you can't make your own story, then you should actually have a good one.
Yeah.
It should.
John Romero, whom I'm assuming at least most of you know who it is, but one of the creators of the original Doom. I think it was him. It might no, actually, it might have been Carmack, but it was either Romero or Carmack. Once famously said that stories in Doom games is like stories in porn. No one minds if it's there, but that's not why they bought it.
yeah, and that was
You're not there for the story, but you're there for an experience of sorts anyway.
And-
So
And like, I think we can all agree that like a good game can have absolutely no story. Like it can just be really good gameplay that keeps you engaged in the game. But it can also be a game that has subpar gameplay but a really engaging story, which keeps you engaged instead.
yes.
But you are very rarely engaged in a game purely by graphics.
Yes, that's
Like it's never this
definitely.
game is so good looking, but the story shit, the gameplay shit, I just gotta keep on playing this. Like that very rarely happens.
Um,
uh,
but I mean, I'm the it's in my view is actually computer like gaming graphics is the same thing as music to movies.
Yeah.
It has to be there, and if it's really good, it catches your attention, but it's not why you're there.
Yeah. And there is
Uh,
also quite often a misconception that because good I think it's important to also differentiate like good aesthetics and good graphics. Like you can have a very technologically competent game that pushes a lot of new ways to do graphics, but you can have a shit aesthetic combined with it, so it's gonna look like trash anyway.
Yeah.
Like I think World of Warcraft is the perfect example of you have shit graphics but a good aesthetic.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
survived. Literally, like
Exactly.
World of Warcraft still looks good.
Yeah, because it was
Uh,
aesthetically well designed.
hey, Warcraft 3 still looks good.
That is
Yeah, we know what you think about Warcraft 3, Mike.
we well we
I
have
will-
our
I
own
will-
separate views of that. Let's just agree to disagree.
No, but
Fight me,
we're not
Doughboy.
talking about like the graphics still looks like it. It looks okay. It works. It's getting older. It's noticed that it's older because of the polygons and polygon count and stuff. But
Yeah.
it still looks good. It just doesn't. It works still.
Yeah.
Did anyone actually buy into the debacle that was the remake, the remaster version of Warcraft 3,
But
Reforged or whatever it was called?
buy into as in purchase it or buy into it as knows what the debacle is about.
No, buy into as purchased and actually
Yes.
played it.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I wanted that fucking mount.
But
So
then
was
you
it
did
worth
buy the
it?
game. You bought the mount.
Yes, I bought the mount. The game was more as a, I don't want to say bonus. Like I don't think it's this is going off topic, obviously. Then, but
Yeah, sure,
I
go
did-
ahead.
Tangent.
I
First
did,
fucking
yeah.
tangent. Right there.
Let me put that. But I did not think the game was as bad as people make it out to be. Right? I don't
No, of course
necessarily
it was
think it was.
internet drama. It was
Yeah.
internet drama who
Like, yes, they obviously did not deliver all that they promised, which is definitely a problem when you are selling a product. But like, I don't think there is necessarily a problem in doing changes for a remake, because there are certain things that you might go like, yeah, this probably needs updating, because like it's if someone were to release, God, I don't know, if they were to re-release Deus Ex, the first one, they would probably need to remake that control scheme because it was shit, right? And I think it's like the same thing here. Like, if you remake it, it is okay to make certain changes. I don't necessarily think it was a good idea to remove LAN support.
No, but the thing is, when I see a remake, the most important thing is to either abandon how you interacted with the game and remake it as a completely different game. If because we have learned a lot on how to interact with games over the years. And the prime example of that is the Final Fantasy one.
Oh yes.
They decided
Oh yes.
we are not going to do the original way. We are going to do it this way because we think that's better, and we're going to keep the story.
Yeah.
And this is how we think people should experience
Keep
it
the story.
now. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I haven't played either, so but I mean that's one way to do a remake is to
Yeah.
to tell the same story, and then you
Yes.
do. It's not the same game. That in that
No,
sense.
but it has been remade, so it's still a
Yeah.
remake.
But then the other one is to do that, the graphical and audio upgrade, and keep the interaction with the game the same. Basically, keep how you interact
Yeah.
with the media the same, and that actually does
Yeah.
extend to LAN support and everything else that is
Yes.
somewhat in the periphery of the game.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. Like from my point of view, is what they missed is that they kept it. That's the same game, but they did change how you interacted
Yeah.
with the media.
Like I'm thinking of, it's not necessarily a remake as much as it is essentially a port, I suppose, but the quote unquote remake of the first Diablo that they made for Good Old Games. They basically they said you can play it in higher resolution now. Boom, fixed it, and then they added Windows 10 support, right? And that is
Yeah.
basically the only changes they did. They left the rest of it as is. They didn't change any of the graphical elements. They didn't change any of the mechanics or the inputs. I think they actually still have IPX if you really want to play through that.
And Hellfire can't still be used in multiplayer.
That is still true, yes. But then
Yeah.
again, Blizzard never made it one.
No,
Blizzard has very
that-
much a hate
that's-
relationship to Hellfire.
Was it a bug or a feature?
that you can't
See,
play.
I think
Yeah.
that
Multiplayer.
the thing it actually was is that seeing as you played the first Diablo over the BattleNet servers at that time, and Blizzard was very disapproving of Sierra, who owned who owned it at the time, making the Hellfire expansion. They just went, you can't have Hellfire on the BattleNet servers, and that was that for multiplayer.
So wait, Sierra got the license to make an expansion.
Yes, Sierra was the publisher of a lot of Blizzard's early games.
Right.
Yeah, and what they basically did was they bought themselves out of Sierra eventually with all of their IPs. But at the time, there wasn't anything stopping Sierra from just going like, how about that studio makes an expansion pack for Diablo, and Blizzard can keep on working on StarCraft or whatever they're doing, you know.
Yeah, and I can understand that as a
Oh,
as a studio.
and correction, they are different studios. The Diablo is Blizzard North.
Oh, yeah, they were
Um,
divided, and nostalgia. Hey.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So as far as remakes go, I don't think that Warcraft 3 remake is essentially shit in any way. It still is decent support for custom maps, even though people probably will not want to make them since Blizzard automatically owns the content creating custom maps.
That really, I can't remember. Did they get a legal thing to that?
Yeah,
Because
it's part of
Yeah.
the EULA.
yeah, but I mean, is that enforceable? That's the key question.
Yes, it is enforceable.
It is enforceable that something that is your expression,
Yes, it is.
because I wouldn't be surprised that that could be on copyright. So you've said that your entire copyright is
Yeah.
gone as well.
What Blizzard is saying is basically that the only thing you are adding is creativity, right? They still own the tools, they still own like all of the tools you use to create the content. And I will agree that the legality is a bit muddy on it, but yes, they can do that. And the main reason is that they don't want another Dota to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously want another Dota to happen, but they don't want another Dota that they don't own to happen.
And the reception of like the whole Reforged thing was probably because some internet fanboys and neckbeards set their expectation level
Yeah,
a high, and then they got disappointed because it didn't
yeah.
meet my expectations,
No,
because it didn't blow me hard enough to
yeah.
get up there.
And I think like the only really big mistake they did was that when they removed the LAN support and forced you to play via Battle.net, they also patched that into the original one from 2001. That I think they did a mistake with. They should have left.
Because
They,
that,
they should have left that one untouched, but they wanted crossplay between the original one and the remake.
Interesting.
but I'll talk. I do find that Blizzard is quite interesting, like public perception of Blizzard from now compared to 2 years ago
Yeah.
is very, very different.
Yes.
And so part of me wonders, and part of me kind of can guess what happened. Uh, we have it feels like we have had Activision starting to muck around in Blizzard's playground.
Yeah.
And the thing I feel most is like the quality of and the connection, for mostly the connection to the actual player base isn't there anymore. Because Blizzard always felt like we have a good connection to our player base and to the community, so we can deliver games good. They get launched late usually and takes a shit long time, but we know what the community wants.
I'd say the connection to the community it was very good at the beginning, and then it's been like slightly decreasing during the time. It, I mean, like all along the years. Of course, it sped up rapidly when Activision came into place, sort of. But I feel like when World of Warcraft hit the market, they were really like listening to people and hashtag free Hong Kong, and but I mean the last couple of years, Jesus, it's been a volley of debacles.
Yeah.
And some of them are like internet drama and things, but really, I don't know. They've really stepped in it a couple of times, and I would like to pin it mostly on Activision, but seeing how non-political they act, I don't know. It's say you don't want to support them and their decision, but sort of you want to play their games. So I mean, we are all hypocrites in some kind, I think.
Every single one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's the weird. I find the first sign of anything starting to get to disconnect is actually Diablo 3.
Yes, but they saved that.
Not that they didn't actually handle that.
Yeah.
But that is I actually don't think that is a disconnect. But I do think that disconnect is rather a problem that they wanted to give the players something, and they wanted to make some more money out of it as well.
You all have mobile phones, don't you?
Yeah, but what I
Oh.
meant is like because the main problem was the was what the auction house
Yes.
in Diablo 3, and what they basically wanted to do was almost the same thing as we had in WoW. That people could trade things with each other and interact in that way. And then some smart person came up. Oh, let's have people buy things with the real money so we can make some more cash from which I can understand how that happened.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that is actually that much of a miss towards the community. I think they wanted to give the community something and they missed in the execution there, actually.
I think what they did was they looked at Valve and saw that Valve has a marketplace where Valve takes a cut on everything the players sells to one another. And they thought, that is a good fucking business model. We want in on that.
To be honest, it's a good business model. But
it's fantastic. I mean,
and I mean, all of like most microtransaction business model is good for the companies.
Yes.
Let's not like that is very, very true. But the problem is that is when that actually influences the design choices and how we express us in the medium. That's when when problems start.
I think it should be added that the auction house wasn't technically speaking microtransactions because you couldn't buy things from Blizzard.
No.
That is true, but
it was basically they were like, you can sell things to one another for real money because we know we're gonna do it anyway. You little pieces of shit. We've seen Diablo 2. We see what happened. And then they decided if you're gonna sell things to one another for real money, let's do it in a safe environment where we can also earn some cash.
Yeah, and that's legit.
Yeah,
I do think they solved it like Diablo 3. Diablo 3 is a great game nowadays in my book.
Oh yes, fantastic.
Still fucking fantastic. People are going to disagree with me on that, but yeah. I felt it, and I played a lot of it.
Web's not going to disagree with you.
But I mean, Diablo 3 1.0 is bad.
As they say,
when I look back at it.
In World of Warcraft, always talk about vanilla. In Diablo 3, never mention vanilla.
Exactly.
Yep. But I think we've been on a long enough Blizzard tangent here. Would you mind getting us back on what we're supposed to be talking about, Chris?
So I'll ask the question like this: Wap, what do you think is special about games as a media?
The fact that you get to have fun in a world that you don't understand yet.
That's a good one.
Usually when you start a new game.
And
yeah,
can you?
Would you like to elaborate, good sir?
Yeah.
You see, the world we live in, we know quite well. At least our immediate world.
Chris would probably disagree, but yeah.
Yeah, I would disagree, but then
we understand how it affects us. But in a world that we don't know yet, we have to learn everything over again.
I am going to disagree with that. I'm going to disagree with that, not completely, but partly.
Yeah.
Because what we do already know is a design language for other games.
Yes. Like you understand the logic of certain games. Like you know that when you sit down and you see that just a first-person perspective, you will instinctively know to move the mouse and try using fast because that has been ingrained into you. That's like a logic that has been taught to you. In the same way that you can see like that's a big pile of ammo, probably the boss fight coming up.
Yeah, but that's still just us extrapolating from previous experiences of a different world.
True.
It's not an intrinsic understanding of the world that we just walked into. So we know how to interact with it because we've interacted with something similar before, but it's not the same. Like a shooter isn't just a shooter. Some of them have loot. Some of them have no ammo.
Some
Yeah,
of them have,
I
have
can't.
loot
Yeah,
boxes.
that's a fair point to make.
The problem is the definition of world here.
Patrick, you had something you wanted to interject with.
Yeah, I think I get the gist of what you are saying, Wap. It's more like you are stepping into something. S- yeah, just let me say like Star Trek, where no man has gone before, or where you haven't been before.
Yeah.
Like the first step, as for example, as my first step into actual playing World of Warcraft as I don't know what the fuck I was, like a, I think I was a druid, like created my first druid, and like, okay, I kind of know this world. I played Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, and there I was in Teldrassil, and like, I don't know anything about this shit. Whoa.
I have to
Okay.
interact with something. I'm a knight of Mohawk.
I think I
Shut
still
up,
have a
fool!
I think I still have a character that has some of those Mohawk grenades in his bank account.
What I mean is, okay, the metaphor probably was kind of lacking, but what I mean is like, you open up a brand new game, you create
Yeah.
a first character, or you just start up a new game, and you take the step into that world. You don't know what to expect. Of course, you
Yeah.
can see on the packages like, oh, it's a FPS, it's a shooter, it's an RPG, it's whatever. But you step into the world, and unless you have been like nerding down on the internet through forums and fandoms and whatnot, you don't have any clue what's waiting for you there. Probably know you're going to shoot stuff in the face, but don't know what that is, what its stories is, if it's like a zombie that was infected by something, or if it's I don't know, like in Metro 2033 or 2034, like the dark ones are actually trying to communicate with you, but you're not really, like,
Yeah.
it can be like a backstory that really flips your mind when you get to the other part of it, like, oh, this is the way the world looks, sort of like Matrix in Neo when he sees the Matrix, like, oh, the world isn't this way, it's the other way. It's like you have that in front of you, and like stepping into a game is like, I got this whole unexplored world before me.
Let me continue. It's not a tangent completely, but it's a bit of a one.
Hmm.
I think that's just that is that you meet a new world and stuff is a very strong thing in games because you can actually use it to teach.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things that I kind of miss. I Part of me actually does miss, the old children games.
Mm.
I'm not sure how that market is nowadays,
Oh,
but
it is still good.
it's still good.
Yeah.
Because that is great way to teach people things and history. And I mean, I play games like Universalis and Crusader Kings, and to some extent Stellaris also has this, but ideas and stuff. But you in the first two you do get history. It actually teaches me history when I'm playing.
Hmm.
And I learn things that happen. It's not correct history, but it does. Like at the start, it starts from a correct historical point, and there's a
Yeah.
certain historical point of view and interactions and things, which is interesting that we can teach things. And I mean, like I want to pull up with The Witcher 3 here, or the Witcher series, and overall, is those games are great at teaching you Slavic folklore because they do introduce you to something that people have, like historical things and mythology. And I that's one of those things I really enjoy with games, and especially role-playing games and some of the strategy games that I get to learn as when I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Sorry for hijacking your point, WAP. I hope it was somewhere along those lines, or was it that you made
Yes,
it for? Partly.
it is that it is a new experience every time you go into something else, and it's almost never going to be the same as real life.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, it can be used as an escape from, I don't know, a bad experience of the day or a tiring experience. You just want to get in and do something different, completely different from your own life. Go kill a million zombies.
Yeah. Unless
And I also think that oh fuck. Can you still hear me? Fellers? Arrow?
Yes.
There. I think I lost you for a while there. Good.
Okay. So it was Nem that.
Yeah.
Ah,
Or did everybody lose?
We have
Uh,
magically
I-
time
I-
teleported to the future. But
Okay.
yeah, I wanted to sort of say also that I think that games as a medium are probably the perfect place for what they usually in stories call the hero's journey, right?
yes,
Because
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
there's nothing better than a game for showing empowerment.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Like just take most RPGs where you start up as some pleb who gets the snot beaten out of him by rats, and then at the end you're like this flying demigod who just looks at people and they die. You're like,
Yeah, that,
Just imagine what the three original Star Wars movies would have been as an RPG. That would have been quite epic. I mean, I understand why Knights of the Old Republic was so epic when it landed.
why does Wap look like he's murdered someone?
Yeah,
Uh,
no, please,
because,
enlighten
because
us.
I was actually imagining it, but not from the Jedi side.
No, of course. And it's just as Nem said before, we can experience the villain side of things, but not
Yes.
have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, and
We can be evil.
in a way there I
Or
thought Tyranny did a really good job because it basically forced you to be evil. Like usually they let you choose between being a goody two shoes or being a villain, and everyone's gonna choose to be a goody two shoes, apart from like 3 people and 2 of them are psychopaths, right?
which game were we talking about? Tyranny.
Tyranny, the Obsidian RPG.
Tyranny, right? Tyranny,
Yeah,
right?
because,
I
like,
had Tyranny.
yeah,
So
because there is a way to play a good person, quote unquote good person in it, but the actual like main storyline that most people are going to experience is one where you are forced to be at least semi-evil.
Hmm.
And
yeah,
I think it's good that it forces you to go out of your comfort zone and go like, okay, I need to do evil. Which of these evil choices do I think is the best?
on the other hand, I would suggest that why not try to experience as much as you can. If you are going to go badass, like totally evil badass, why not go more out of your comfort zone and try to experience that side of you, explore it at least to know what you yourself are capable of or incapable of.
Will you shoot Rex?
but I mean, we should also
remember, guys,
remember
we're Russian.
that it's also important when we talk about exploring like different aspects of ourselves and how we express ourselves in game is that it's still us expressing ourselves in a game, and that doesn't reflect reality.
Indeed.
No.
And that's very important to remember because we have all of these issues with when they say games like promote violence,
Yes.
so it and you actually don't know what evil bad choices you are
Yeah.
gonna make until you're forced into a situation where you are incentivized to do it or you're forced to
White
do it.
Phosphorus, my old friend.
Oh,
Hmm?
behave. Oh,
I
behave.
missed
But
that.
Yeah, I
but
understand.
to get back on the discussion, let's give Mike some space as well. He has mostly been
Yeah.
quiet, sipping his drink most of this time. You ain't gonna get away with that.
So Drust,
What do you
Just
find? Yeah,
one,
Trust.
one second
Yeah,
before we go back to that. Had to be me. Someone else had gotten it wrong.
wait,
yeah, we did hear
Okay.
it.
More than Solus.
Oh,
Yeah,
more than Solus.
Renegade or not.
God
yeah.
rest his soul.
God rest his soul up there in that tower. But yeah, Mike, what do you find to be the like? What about games do you think differentiates it from other media and makes it special to you?
Well, for me, it's mostly. But as we talked about before, is it could be both a little bit of stress relief and a little bit of empowerment, and to get you, yeah, and just as my favorite games are mostly power fantasies. So
No judgment.
I'm the big knight, or I'm the big gun wielding hero in one sense or another. And I think you almost only can get that from games.
Mm.
We have seen it a little bit, or they've tried
Yeah,
it in movies. For instance, in Hardcore Henry and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
But it's still not the same thing, because you don't actively do the choices,
yeah.
even if it's viewed out of your own eyes. Um,
I'm going to
and
add. Okay, keep going.
and
I'll-
with the VR being so easy to use, you can take that up a notch. So, for instance, when I get home and I had a bad day, well, I don't go to work back the next day with an automatic carbine. I put myself into another world and do it there instead. Mostly shooting 2 meter long hot dogs with armored vest and machine guns. So, as I said, it's a very good. That's my view
Yeah.
of it, at least.
So escapism and power fantasy.
Sorry, nature calls.
Yep, no worries.
Well, keep going.
Old man has a
Uh,
small bladder.
Put it on
I-
hold.
Actually, I don't. I actually think books are better for the power fantasy media than movies.
Mm,
Overall, because it's a longer. First, it's longer often,
Mm.
but then it's still often focused on a single main character, compared to TV series, which are usually a bit wider.
same thing with
In,
movies. Most
Mm.
movies are like, even though they have a protagonist, are usually some sort of ensemble cast.
and books are a bit more, just like, or at least fantasy and science fiction usually are a little more focused.
Yeah.
There are of course other types of books and
But they still don't compare with games if you're not
no,
writing your own book.
no, but it's still in my experience, um, uh, uh, you can do a lot of the things we do see in games, but not everything in books, actually. But usually, when you look for power fantasy in books, you usually find them in not so good, not the best authors,
Yeah.
and
You mean those glossy magazines where
Yeah, like
in the
why doesn't
shaded
why
aisle?
doesn't this book have a hardback version? Well,
no. Why doesn't this book have a physical version?
yeah, that too.
That's how it works today.
Yeah.
Hardback is gone. Does it have a physical version or not?
Yeah.
I think that's where we're gonna end up in the end. By the way, not hardbacks are collector's items in the
Yeah.
future. But Yeah, but I do agree with the escapism thing. Mainly, the reason why I agree with it is I don't enjoy games unless it's some special games where I really, really like Witcher 3 or something. I really enjoy games when I actually have shit to do.
Mm.
When you have like work or something else, and you can come home and play computer games. For example, now when I don't have a job, I actually don't enjoy games as much.
Mm.
Mainly because I have so easy to access them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is it doesn't feel logical because I should enjoy games as much. Uh, uh,
No, it's
but
kind of
That's why I
logical.
put.
I think it's kind of logical. Sorry, Mike. You were saying.
Yeah, no, that's why I put myself in, especially now when I have so much free time. I force myself to make to do stuff around the house, fixing the stable, fixing the house, fix stuff that I've put up, just to be able to when I need to. Well, I really should lie down. No, I will sit down and play some video games because I earned that.
Mm.
So.
But but like Void said, I mean, if you have a lot of money and you can go out and buy all like much of the stuff that you want, that say you win the lottery and you suddenly get a big sum of money and you can suddenly go out and buy all the cool new clothes you wanted. So you buy like really 3 new wardrobes and you just like knock yourself out, and suddenly you have an abundance of clothes. Are they going to be that much worth you than if you just save your earnings and you buy that jacket that you really wanted and you like, wow, now I really got this jacket because fuck, I really worked hard for this.
Yeah.
Well, if you have
You
all that
don't.
money, you're probably gonna just sit in your sweatpants and a bad T-shirt because it's well, you don't care anymore.
Yeah. I can't help but think about how much.
No,
Right?
but you get my metaphor that
Yeah.
that something that you have easily accessible, like for example, like if you let a wolf into like a
Cheap pen.
sheep pen, for example, he'll kill all the sheep. He won't eat any like 2 3 or like that, but he will kill them all because he can. Same as if you go to a buffet somewhere, like you take all the food, but you only eat like 1/3 of it because you get
Try,
full and like,
try
nah,
one of each, eat 4 of them.
yeah,
yeah,
I could take all, therefore I took all. Are they worth that to me? That much to me? No, they aren't. Because something is it's like back in Starship Troopers. Something given to you has no worth. You have to earn it.
Mm.
It's a good day to die when you know the reason why.
Wow. Of course.
Forever?
Come on, you apes, you want to live forever?
so I guess I'll run the same question. What
Service
games is a
Gradsman.
medium is for
Citizenship.
me then? Because I think I'm the one left.
Yes, you are.
To me, it's about interactivity mainly. It's a bit of an escape, but it's interactivity, which is my core. I like a good story, was one of the things, which is why I really love role playing games, because that's where you find the good stories nowadays. Uh, uh, Most of the like for example, it's like the strategy games we have nowadays don't tell as good a story. Uh, and usually I feel like the best stories are in role playing games. But then I also like planning interactivity, so I like a lot of the type of planning and strategy games, or kind of that large sense of, oh, this is how I'm going to solve a problem. It's the type of interactivity which is problem solving, which isn't really surprising as like when you are an engineer. Uh, is something that I enjoy because I enjoy that overall, um, which is also an expression of how the interactivity can be different in different games, and the goal of that interactivity is different, which is one of the things that I feel is what separates the genres of games, how you interact with them mainly. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, sometimes it is always very rewarding to finally figure out a difficult problem. Which is one reason why I also like card games, because in a card game you have a finite number of ways to solve the problem. You might not get the same options every time, but work with what you have and find a way to win. Sometimes you fail, and sometimes you win. And it makes victory all the sweeter when you're dealt a bad hand, but you still manage to pull through.
Yeah. So this is basically what I like to call the toolbox approach to game design, which is you give the player a toolbox and then you say, here's a problem.
Yeah.
Survive.
How do you get up into the tower?
Which is like,
How do you launch a rocket into space?
yeah, you have a Kerbal. The Kerbal's stupid. It doesn't want to die. Get it to the moon.
Oh, I was actually referring to Factorio there. Which is basically, oh, you can make all of this stuff, and then your goal is to launch a rocket into space. Why? Because the goal is to launch a rocket into space. Why?
Yeah.
Because the goal is to launch a rocket into space.
Yeah, and this once again returns to the fact that it is okay for games to not have a story, to have completely abstract, if you will, goals to such a
Yeah.
degree.
But that
Here's
depends
a knife.
very much on the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Right. I think that is us done with that topic.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're done with that topic.
Right.
I think we'll just talk about any good games anybody's been playing. You guys have been playing.
Yeah,
I think we don't have to bring it up. I know we could.
I'm gonna leave this discussion to Patrick and Mike. And maybe
no,
Wap.
no. It's better like.
It's better to put it to WAP. The
but,
foreigner.
I'd like to add an appendix to sort of the previous discussion. I know I was around in all your kind of discussions, so on. But like, if we take a step back from like what makes a game and so on, that we actually have to, like you said, Mike, you have to be active.
Yeah.
Instead of a movie, you can be passive.
Mm.
Two different kinds of approaches to how you let off steam. Sometimes you just want to see a good blockbuster movie to get some, you want to see the bad guy's ass get whacked into 4 shades of purple.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to see Sylvester Stallone beat the shit out of Nazis.
Exactly. and sometimes you actually want to participate. You want to be the guy. You want to like have your own kind of hero journey or whatever. I don't know. I had a couple of points I thought of during your discussions, but I think I lost them along the way. So
if they come back, feel free to go on a tangent.
I'll bring something up about compared to books and movies, is that sometimes it feels this is the problem that the games as a story. The games have the problem that sometimes less is more. Because books are very, very limited in, you can only use words to express it. So you can get, so the tools to work with that have been very well developed and expresses a lot of things, but sometimes it feels like games has too many options, almost like the developers, to actually get the the perfect story across. there's always something that's missing in that I, as a player, can abruptly stop playing the game almost. Um, and that I think, like you can't be totally immersed in it in the same way. Of course, you can
Yeah.
pause a movie as well, but I mean, now I'm talking about let's go and look at that flower for 10 minutes, even though with the character I'm playing, when you play a story like a role playing game or a story game, you're usually not you're not most players, even not like I would play pen and paper role playing game. I don't imagine myself as being the character. I act as the character, but I'm not pretending to be the character. And I think
Okay.
movies and books
Yeah.
are better at doing
Yeah.
that, at being the character.
I would raise the
Okay.
point of VR as a counterpoint to it. But yes, do continue,
Yeah.
Patrick.
No, I just thought like, have you tried to see yourself as the character? And
Yes, I have.
and why don't you? I mean, don't you think it would be adding a bit of immersion to you to actually see yourself as the character in perspective to you acting as someone?
But I understand that mostly you get from almost all characters you have in games is blank face number 1, blank face number 2. You can make a face, you can make a name, and you can see the face and name. And when you just see a gun in front of you, it doesn't matter
How you look.
which
Yeah.
Gordon you are,
I think I was
because it's
yeah,
gonna be
okay.
you.
I think I was aiming more towards the. Sorry, jeez. I think I was aiming more towards what Void said about RPGs.
Yeah.
What 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 makes you not want to be the character instead of just acting like someone?
I like. That's I can't really say. I can't. It's one of those things. I can't really answer your question
Yeah.
because
Okay, yeah,
It's a preference.
it's a
okay,
preference. So
I understand
what
that.
what my question actually is, in some senses, why doesn't a role playing game on a computer
Hmm.
pull me in to a character as much as a role playing game on pen and paper?
Hmm.
Uh,
I,
that's actually what I'm asking.
I think it's the limitation on player expression.
Hmm.
Because you are in some way limited by the pre-programmed expressions you are allowed to make, and expressions in this case is any sort of action that the player can take. Whilst
You have a framework with laws that
yeah, whilst in an
a
RPG,
box.
like an RPG is more like your character and the other a pen and paper RPG. It's like your character and the other person's characters telling a collaborative story with the game master, right?
Yeah.
So you get a lot more tools in your toolbox, if you will.
Yeah. Sort of you get a, I don't know. Could you say that you got a like a blank slate, blank paper? Because you make your own character and then the story is whatever you
Make of
whatever
it.
the game master
Yeah.
chooses and whatever you act on it.
Let's get.
That's why I
I think
as someone with kind of a vivid fantasy and imagination can really dive balls deep into RPG pen and paper RPG much more like deeper into that kind of adventure as opposed to like a computer RPG because it's more like I try to see myself as the actual person in that spot. I think every RPG like pen and paper RPG character I've ever built has some parts of my own personality built into it to make it feel more like this is me now. How would I react to this situation? And maybe not only react, how do I act? What like first step do I take? How do I react to other people and so on? just to make more live role playing. Yes.
So do we think? So do we like? So it's almost as like we're in agreement that pen and paper role playing games, the strength that they have is that they are more interactive than computer games.
Yes.
Even.
Yes.
They are even less limiting than computer games.
Oh yeah, limiting.
Even though
Limiting
we
being
can't.
Because the limitations are only in capability and certain other
and random throw of the dice.
well, yeah, that's part of the
Nat
capability as well.
But let's ignore the mechanics and let's just think freeform, because
But-
that's the extreme of that.
Yeah.
But no,
It-
still with mechanics, the limitation is still only in capability, not in personality.
Mika,
Well,
what
they-
do you want to
Yeah,
say?
Mike.
but it's harder to do on your own.
Oh yes.
Yes.
There are
Yeah.
actually single player
Yeah,
pen
yeah,
and
yeah.
paper
I know
RPGs.
that. I
They
know that. But
exist.
still, when I get home and I'm tired, I
Yeah.
have two options. Either I sit by, well,
But-
by your choice streaming media,
Yeah.
and just relax, or I play a game. And if I'm supposed to play a game, because it's easier for the head, then if I choose to take pen and paper or a computer game, the
Yeah.
pen and paper game I have to build up myself. And if I'm not playing with somebody else, then it's gonna be harder to immerse yourself.
Think of it like this then.
So-
The single player role playing experience is the fantasizing you lie and do in bed before you fall asleep, right? When you go on adventures or stories or whatever the fuck you do in your dreams, right? Your daydreams as you before you fall asleep, right?
Mm.
Because they are adventures you craft yourself for yourself
Yeah,
to
I
keep
know. I
yourself
have
entertained.
done a lot of fantasies, the adventures. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
speak of here
Once again,
because they're
not judging, but that is basically the single player equivalent of an RPG, right?
Mm.
Because
Mm.
you are the GM and the player at the same time, telling yourself
Mm.
a story that you are also interacting in.
the difference is I'm never gonna write down that.
I'm going to continue on that writing down, because one of the few things that I think is very close to playing role-playing games is actually writing a story.
Yeah.
Pen and paper role-playing game, because I tried this for a while after we tried to develop the Black Sun role-playing game to write some in that world, and that is very much you have to be your character, you have to be your cast. It's like DMing for 0 players almost,
Yeah.
which is a very interesting experience. But then you also have the difficulty of expressing yourself in the medium, and that's harder. I think that's where I was weak when I worked on it. Like I could do a lot of world building and storytelling and stuff like that because I've been DMing for a
I
couple of years.
I actually have done the same. I have tried to write a book since I was about 7, something like that.
So,
And
yay, hi.
yeah, and it's changed a little bit because it's been depending on what I have been doing at the time. For instance, when I was young, I played a lot of strategy games, so the book was based around that. And then it was more. I was out playing. When I was in around 14, 15, 16 there, it was a lot of military stuff. So I tried to write a book about that. And when I got older, it was more fantasy. And I actually, when I was about 20, I actually wrote. Have anybody, one of you read Eddings books?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which books are we talking about?
David
Yes.
Eddings.
Yep.
Well, choose anything he done because
Bulgarian.
because
Saga.
when he did when he did the I think it's so let's see here, it's the Adventure of the Stone or what it's called. He did a book at the end of that series that was called Riva Skifter, or the Scrolls of Riva. And it was about how he did the books. And he started the text by expressing, if you love books, don't write one. and a full page of reasons why not to start doing this.
Interesting.
But I almost did that book myself because it was it was the printed version of all the world building, how he built the whole world for the book series. So I started by almost doing the same, but I never wrote the book. I only wrote the backstory,
Mm.
but I never wrote the books.
Yeah.
So,
To hook on
but it's hard.
to
It's very hard.
Oh yeah, like I've been there myself a couple of times, but it always like ends in a couple of pages, and then you're nah, fuck it.
Yeah.
But
But Mm.
to say something, I think as a like if we talk pen and paper role playing game,
Mm.
as a dungeon master, it's extremely important to have a good basis in reading in the topic you're working in.
Yeah.
If you're playing fantasy games, it is really you basically almost have to have read Tolkien, and you have to have read the standard basis. And I mean, I would say that you need to have uh, you need to be able to express yourself in relation to the media. Um, and the best thing is if your players also has done that, because then you can relate very well. Um, uh, and that's, I think, is a problem we have in some role-playing games, that it's hard to express what is what if there's not a good aesthetic for things. I think D&D does have this problem, actually. But on the other hand, I don't think Shadowrun. Does everybody know what Shadowrun is?
I do.
The shooting game, or
No,
Uh,
not the old team shooter, the actual RPG universe.
oh, I haven't played
yeah.
it.
Because yes, sure, you need a basis, but everything is so stylized in that game, and it's presented in very much pictures. I think, and the artwork is so strong that you don't need as much of that common background,
Okay.
because it is fantasy cyberpunk basically.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of good pictures in it. I'll show you guys the rule book I have if you want to see some pictures from it, or you could
To
Google.
just
Uh,
to latch on to something you said before, Void, was you find you said you lack the ability, or you have difficulty with the ability to express yourself when you are DMing in RPG campaigns.
no, what I think I said is I think it's not really. That's what I not. I don't think I
Okay.
said that, and I don't think I
Okay.
agree with that, because that
Okay.
I do have
Yeah.
can do,
Yeah.
and I
Okay.
think Nem, even though the format we played in it wasn't the best, but I think I'm pretty sure I can do that.
He's a decent DM,
I'm not the best DM.
Nope.
I'm not the best DM.
but you are good enough.
I'm good enough, and we had some fantastic characters. uh,
Fun.
well, I'll run Pander by you after this,
Yeah.
after this thing, and talk about him,
Okay.
but not online. But the problem is, when I play a game, I don't want to force myself to do something more. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put in more work than I have to go through the experience, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the common state, and that might be why I'm not the best DM, because I don't put anything extra in it, uh, and I try and improvise when I'm there. But but why don't games automatically pull me in to imagine myself as the character in the computer game? That's the thing, because why do I have to spend the extra effort to do that?
Yeah.
That's more my question, rather than
Oh, okay.
well, that is natural in pen and paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my brain went on a totally separate tangent there from the tangent. We're going into inception mode here, but I think it was something along those lines, like if you are DMing a campaign in whatever random world pen and paper RPG setting, and you're like, okay, I'm DMing for these people. It's all very immersive. We are doing fun shit, and why the heck am I not playing with them? Found myself in that position a couple of times because I ran a Star Wars D20 RPG pen and paper for 10 years. And I was like, okay, we are going very, very, very immersive and all. And I got an idea, like, I had a couple of NPCs. And I found out, like, okay, I'll make an NPC that I would like to play if I was a part of my own role playing game. This is going serious egomaniac. I know, I know. But I actually found out that, okay, I did myself as an NPC. I gave myself, okay, I wasn't on the level as the other characters. I made myself like a supporting character for them, but helping them out in like small ways here and there, and like being like sort of a sidekick that's there on like a subtle level, not coming in, taking the role as a hero or something like that, just trying to, yeah, doing some small convenient stuff here and there. And it kind of actually worked, and they kind of grabbed onto that character and pulled him a bit more into the campaign. And I found that really rewarding that they actually liked that character and that they themselves took that. When I tried to build up my world and so on, I threw a bunch of like possibilities on them and let them choose their own adventure. What do I want to do? I play as a Jedi. Do I want to do this? Do I want to go that way? Do I want to go to this planet? What do I want to do there? And just like build a world around their choices, which was fun in the end because it really spiraled out of any fucking control.
Yeah, that's the common problem with do the DM tell the story or the players tell the story, which is the central dichotomy in pen and paper role playing games.
Hmm.
Neither is true. Both is true
Yeah,
at the same time.
different
Uh,
strokes for different folks.
yeah, and every DM and every party is different in that because
Yeah.
some parties just wanna fuck around and kill, go full murder hobo.
Yeah.
Good old murder hobo.
Well,
Yeah.
I just did a mock creation of a typical murder hobo. A strength-based orc rogue.
It sounds like a murder hobo.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like, oh god.
Lawful neutral former city watch.
But I mean, wait, you're lawful. You're not a murder hobo. You're not.
No.
Oh,
You're not.
oh, no. Lawful,
Depends on the
lawful can be totally murder hobo. It's just that they are not chaotic in it. They follow some sort of inherent logic to it.
Pathos.
You know. That's the problem with chaotic and lawful because if you believe that everything you do is lawful,
Yeah.
like killing everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe that everybody should be
following
killed.
the laws of nature.
Yes.
I'm stronger, I win, you die.
I'm the
Yeah,
strongest. That's why I'm the boss.
But that's the problem with the lawful chaotic thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what we actually mean is conforming to the laws of society, rather than
Yeah.
whatever law.
He's also an orc, so you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Question. Did we want to talk about Generation Zero?
I think we should do that, and then I think we
Yeah.
should wrap up.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that too. Because I'm thinking we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes now, and I think like 15-20 minutes more should be fine-ish.
Somewhere
Yeah,
along
and
those
I
lines.
think you guys need to talk through that game.
Yes, because yeah, because
What you want?
Uh,
You
no,
don't
no, I
want to
didn't,
give your input?
I think Chris, you haven't
I
played
haven't
it at
played
all,
it.
and I have
No.
played I think like an hour collectively, an hour and a half.
Perhaps.
So
I
I'm
know
I'm
some
gonna
of it.
let you take this discussion, and maybe I'll come with some observations.
Hand off the dress.
Yeah. Well, where to begin?
Exactly.
I've noticed a few things to start with about myself during this game. It really hit close to home. So I've been screaming a lot more at people than I would have liked to have done. Mostly because both the
You
old
should start
military.
with talk about what the game is about.
Yeah.
I think that's the right place to start.
Yes. So just to clarify, Generation Zero, FPS survival game. That's what we're talking about. Go,
Mm.
Mike.
And it's also a game based in, well, loosely based in Sweden during the 80s, during the 80s 90s gap, where you're trying to defend yourself against robots. And well, it's fun. The most interesting thing I've noticed is that it's loud. They have made the guns actually sound almost like the real counterparts. So when you get a blast just by your ear, you get a little bit annoyed.
Someone
There are
found
settings for that, good
your
sir.
ear. You're going deaf for a couple seconds.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it's one game that's really, really nice to play with your friends. It's not
Mhm.
that fun because it has almost no story that we have found yet. At least we're trying. It has a couple of loosely tied together quests. That's mostly just to make you move around on the map, but you don't have to go after them, and you can take them in any order you like, more or less.
So it's more of like
Uh,
the Dark Souls story where like you just experience the world and then you sort of have to piece together small parts of backstory yourself.
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Because
Yeah.
I'm 31 hours into the game, and I have still no idea what's going on.
Robot bad, boom boom.
Yeah, that I've noticed because every time I see one, there's a lot of explosions around me, and my character goes "Whee!" away.
I actually
So
did a review on that on the Steam, like the Steam pages. So
yeah,
summarizing 30 hours of gameplay, I would say like robots here, people gone, mullets are a valid fashion choice. Unironically.
well, they are a choice. They're not valid. Especially
Never
mullet with
mind.
a headband. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
The
sort of
character creation options are very 80s.
Good 80s or bad 80s?
Move
both.
80s.
Yes.
Oh,
80s.
80s.
it's so nice to see the team picture in the game where you see the this lightly camoed soldier with the full set of suit of armor soldier and the
Parrot goth.
hips, huh?
The parrot goth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the weirdly feminine, the really weirdly feminine. I mean, boy girl somewhere in the, and I'm not gonna tell who's who. You be the judge.
Nope.
But it's well, it's not that fun to play alone. I've tried for a couple of hours. It's a good way to get some extra, well, XP only, but it's as I said, lacking story, so not
Is,
that fun. You
is
just
that
blow up stuff.
is that because when you play together with other people, you can sort of create the story together, or is it
Yeah.
because the game is very badly balanced for single player?
No, it's quite good balanced for single player, but it's except for when you meet the really big
Well,
the Gundams land. They are quite hard to take yourself.
the inability of bringing tactics into the big fights is
Yeah.
a problem.
And you have a lot of tools to take down the robots. So we mostly don't use any of them. We just shoot at them from every direction. But you
Not
can.
to say that we haven't tried.
We have it in the inventory.
Mines and gas tanks. Remember, people, mines and gas tanks,
Yeah.
or just gas tanks.
As I
And
said,
bullets.
we almost always.
That do nothing.
Well, the big ones was quite nice.
Yeah.
So, as a summarize, it's a good game for having a nice evening with your friends and just giving Wally to some big ass robots.
Mm.
The only thing I don't like though is the restriction on how many you can be, because it's only
Yeah.
4.
Yeah,
And there's no reason really for them to just be 4.
We-
I know
we-
the reason.
we have talked
but
about this,
there's
and
no
there's a reason. But
there is no in-game reason for just be like you have a lot of games like Left 4 Dead that you have only 4 characters.
yeah, because there are only 4 survivors. Yeah.
But this is an open world game.
Yeah.
So you don't really have a reason
Also,
for it to be only 4 players.
to clarify for Chris, the problem is that the I can't remember if it's called peer-to-peer server, but everyone sends their packets to everyone, right?
Yeah.
So if you have 4 players, you send your packets to the 3 other players, and you receive packets from 3 other players. And what that essentially means is that the player with the slowest connection is going to slow down the entire game. Which is why you can't be more than 4, because the more people you are, the bigger the chances, or naturally the more data you have to send as well, but the bigger the chances that someone will have a really slow connection.
And we noticed that
Then it makes more sense that one person acts as the server.
Yes, it would, but that's not how they put it up.
No, but then I actually do think what they want. It sounds like what they wanted to was to ensure that everybody was equally immersed in the world, and to ensure that there's no lag and some stuff like that, or that it lags collectively.
Yeah, but the problem is that since there isn't a main server to keep track of everything, the same 2 players can kill the same enemy at the same time.
Or you can be standing in a place that the other
because you
player
are
will
both
be
sending
heading.
the packet that you kill the enemy at the same time.
Yeah, okay. It's the 2 generals problem.
Yeah.
If anybody know, okay, does anybody know what the 2 generals problem is, except Nem?
I know what it is, but I'm gonna write it up.
Think I've heard of it.
It's basically it's about communication basically. So you have a castle, and you have 2 armies on either side of the castle, and each side the armies can send messages to each other, and it's about when should we attack, and how can you trust that the other side is going to attack. And they can only, for example, say that they could know, and they have to know that both are going to attack at the same time. So it's here you're trying to communicate to each other that you've killed the enemy, but you're both trying to kill the enemy. It's some sort of reverse one, but you have to know that the other person hasn't killed the enemy before so you can't kill it. So
yeah. But returning to the game then.
Computer science.
Yeah. Logic computer science problems for another day. So you've been playing about 30 hours so far. Let's say, is it a game you would recommend to other people? And in that case, why?
The problem is it's a game I would almost only recommend to Swedish people, because you can get this experience from a lot of other games because it's a survival shooter, more or less. So there's a lot of games like this out there, but because it's set in a pseudo version of Sweden, especially me that's from born in the 80s, I have a lot of references. You go around a corner and you almost look at all the signs instead of looking
Yeah.
where the big scary
Yeah.
robots are.
Exactly.
And then you start shooting and you hear some some 80s hits in the background. So, oh, this is lovely.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Swedish
what you get.
weaponry. As a Swedish army, old Swedish army dude, I have almost shot all the weaponry that we're using. So it's quite accurate in those parts. And of course, there's a lot of stuff that they have changed just because of copyright, but you can still see what it's supposed to be
Yeah.
just by looking at it
I-
because it's I've lived it.
See, I played for about an hour, and I was going to describe it to my partner, and I basically said, "Well, it's a Swedish korvmoj röjarsimulator."
What does that
Yeah.
become in English? That becomes
That becomes the Swedish sausage vendor raiding simulator, basically.
Yeah, because
with
we have been
coasters.
we have
That's
been
even more hilarious.
and we have been doing a lot of fighting out of sausage vendors. So
And we're talking about like in Sweden we have this sort of sausage kiosks basically. That is basically like I said, you can usually buy other things. Then they usually have like mashed potatoes and such as well. But it's very ingrained to our culture that it's the place you go to buy sausages.
And especially in
Hot dogs.
buns, yeah, hot dogs, yeah.
especially in Western Sweden.
Yes,
That's also it's even more prevalent.
half special
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Which is funny that this is supposed to be on the East Coast.
Yes, but yeah, I can't remember if
Which you can notice when they talk to you, the recordings.
Yeah.
Because it's very rikssvenskt.
actually is Avalanche located in Stockholm or
Yes,
I think, yeah.
Wait, you
they are Stockholm based.
Avalanche?
yeah,
Avalanche Studios.
yeah, based in Stockholm. Yeah.
Because what it's
I think I
Okay.
checked literally 2 days ago.
But just as Mike says, yeah, I mean, like if you're into the 80s or 80s to 90s shift nostalgia, or at least 80s nostalgia, if you're into like robots, survival games, I mean, like if you play with a group in this game, I think it becomes more like you have to strategize, you have to find real tactics for it.
Yeah.
Of course, you can go try to brute force down the bigger ones, like we've done, managed, but I think
Barely.
we have a little bit of exploration ahead of us to actually have more lethal tactics against them
But still,
that
I
can
would.
be developed.
The thing said before is that I should almost not recommend it for anybody outside of Sweden because it doesn't reference anything from anywhere else. It's
No, but-
very Swedish. It's very Swedish.
Yeah,
it's
but
also-
I
Just
can
ask
see
Wap what he
someone
thinks.
is into that. Someone who is
I
really
swear-
like, okay, this is robots. This is Sweden. This is interesting. If I
Yeah.
mean, if some dude in Texas sits and like, what the hell, Sweden? Okay,
Like I'm thinking all of us can enjoy Fallout, which takes place in America, right? So why wouldn't an American be able to enjoy a Swedish?
Well, it's
post-apocalypse?
because it's based in the America that we're hoping for, the bombed out version.
on the other hand, I get what you're saying, just because many of the people who haven't experienced this, even Swedish people
Yeah.
who play this game who haven't experienced this, don't get the same. I guess they don't get the same feeling of nostalgia. We come over, we go over the road, and there's a bicycle on the road, but there's something else there. We look down. Oh my God, it's a Walkman, a cassette playing Walkman.
But for example, just one thing, a lot of this game is a lot of dead space. It's
Yes, it
more it's a lot of suspense. It's dense raining, a lot of fog, a lot of stuff like
Mm.
that. So you really don't. You hear in a distance, you hear a sound that you know is one of those robots.
Yes.
You don't know where, and you don't
No.
know when it's gonna go.
Yeah.
But in between that, you mostly have to have some. You have to have some subject of what it is you're walking around in, because we have. I think we've spent most of those 30 hours walking around in corridors
Hmm.
and just
Yes.
being amazed of, oh, I remember this. This was about 10 or 12 years ago. I saw something exactly like this, and this is how it looks.
So
Yeah.
tying back, or just yeah,
Hard to wait.
but
Yeah.
tying back to last episode, the first one we did. Seeing as you mentioned
sure?
the strategic elements, how does it compare to Ghost Recon? Breakpoint Wildlands, the most recent one we had
Breakpoint.
played. Yeah,
Breakpoint.
because
Yeah.
we talked about that last time. So how does it compare to that, since they are both sort of strategic games?
Well, you don't have. You have to think about the tactics more.
Yeah.
Especially because most enemies you meet are ridiculously overpowered. So you have to really think about what you're doing, how you're moving. Is your flashlight on?
Yes.
Because that can be, you turn around the corner and you just get someone's flashlight in your eyes. You can't see anything for 1 second in between, and that's when you have one of those small bastards lodging onto you.
Ticks. Yeah.
So it's more actually more tactical than the tactical shooter known as Ghost Recon.
But that also
So-
means that's also based on the fact that you need sort of the same amount of tactics, but you don't have as many tactical toys.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Where's
And,
my
and the opponent isn't a copy of you,
What?
and your opponent isn't a copy of yourself.
No.
Sort of.
That can be sort of like the robots are the unknown. We don't know, which can be something that frightens people even more, because say you play this game by yourself, it becomes more of a like a horror thing. Like you hear them but you don't see them. If you play with a group, it's more like, okay, we know we can take down packs of the runner types fairly easy. It's no problem. We can take down the hunters. But if you're alone, then you kind of shit
you
out
don't
of
want to
luck.
hear the roar in the background.
Exactly. You don't want that.
Then you need your brown pants. But,
Exactly.
but something that's really good about also just not meeting a copy of yourself when you're out running. Something I really have a problem with the new shooters that you have nowadays. It's when you're, as Mido has some military experience, you know that one bullet is the end of somebody. So when you shoot somebody in a game, for instance, in the head or leg or something like that, you want them to go down because that's what it needs. If you shoot a magazine into the head of somebody and he's still moving around, shooting happily back to you, then you get annoyed when it's a human person you're shooting at.
Yeah.
But now when you get a robot, something made of metal and circuits, you can actually put 10 magazines in this thing and it's still moving, and you're wondering why, but still you're hitting armor, you're hitting steel.
You're
So as long,
immersed,
yeah,
basically.
so as long as, as I said, I did a lot of screaming in this game.
He actually turned off his mic for a couple of episodes.
I have a couple of parts that I actually had to put up the microphone just to scream. I know that I didn't want to say those things to anybody else.
Just about immersion and warfare. Have you played Arma 3?
Yes.
Okay, just checking that hasn't gone past you, because I assumed you had, but
It's less buggy than Arma 3.
Okay, that I have heard.
Most games are. Freddy the Fish are less buggy than Arma 3.
Yeah.
Don't you shit on Freddy the Fish. That was good
I'm not,
adventure
I'm
games.
Yeah. On the other hand,
Uh.
as Wap said, I mean, like you have to. This game sort of doesn't hold you by the hand as many people
Also
or
by
many
default.
people many games do. They actually give you like, okay, you got gas tanks, you got matches, you got, I don't know what, you got bubble gum, you get ammo, you get like hairpins. Like, do like figure it out. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not
You
gonna
get a
hold your
Swedish
hand, you're on your
newspaper
own.
criticizing Swedish politicians as well.
What?
Hmm?
Do you get like Swedish newspapers criticizing Swedish politicians?
Yes.
Oh no, we wouldn't dare.
You actually have,
Imaginary.
they have that. No.
They have
They
that.
have the real Swedish politicians from that time. The names
Yeah.
of the real Swedish politicians
Which
from that time.
ones are? Where are they during the 80s?
I think it was
Ingvar
Carlsson.
Carlsson.
Yeah.
It's some news about the Berlin Wall falling and what happens now with the Warsaw Pact countries and what does the Swedish armed forces do and so on and so on.
So late
So it's
80s
kind of
then.
like headline news. It's not anything in depth, but
You
you
get
can
you
see
get some
the
Russian as well,
newspaper.
which is for Swedish people during the 80s. That's
Basically the
Yeah,
same as for
bring
the
me my
Americans
brown
during the
pants.
60s.
Mm.
But just
Yeah.
mm.
let's
The web
let's
said something like
I have before.
Mm.
Do we want to close up soon now?
yeah,
or?
I'm thinking let's start picking up some finishing thoughts from everyone on the subject.
okay.
Um,
Silence.
Well, it's a very fun experience. It's definitely meant for co-op,
Hmm?
I'd say, because playing this by yourself, no. I mean, you're gonna have
Sudden tots. I lost all of you again. I lost all of you for a second there. Patrick,
Yeah.
would you mind
yeah, I
redoing
think
it?
we're having issues with. I think Discord is having issues,
Yeah,
not us.
might be
Okay.
Discord, but yeah, feel free to re-say what you did, Patrick.
I think you're gonna, if you play this game by yourself, you're gonna have a frustrating time. It's meant for co-op. I think we can sort of agree on that.
You're gonna have a lot of dead space at least.
Dead Space, yeah, and crawling
Dead
around
Space was a good
on
game.
fields and so on.
Yeah, but okay, you're gonna have the in between part between stomping babies.
Yeah, yeah. That I don't even I don't want to go there. I haven't been there. I haven't tried Dead Space, so yeah.
Okay, but
but,
WAP, you got any closing thoughts on the game?
I mean, for the majority of the walking parts of the game, if there's no one there to have a conversation with while you're just walking, it's it's literally just a walk in the woods, but without actually moving.
and we're robots.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Chris, do you have any closing thoughts you want to interject with?
Not really. I haven't been in this conversation because I haven't played the game. So,
Yeah.
I had a question. I could raise. I hope doesn't run too long to have a tangent. Has anybody played the new XCOM?
No.
No. Okay. Then it doesn't continue.
Let's
The-
let's pop that down as a subject for next episode, maybe.
Yeah. Because they released XCOM Chimera Squad. I mean, they announced it like literally,
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and it's out. It's a really short short distance, and it's a continuation of the XCOM story. How many played XCOM 1 and 2?
2.
Okay. Why the fuck does Steam behave weirdly? Because because it's gotten mostly positive reviews, this one, but it's supposed to be a bit different.
Yeah.
The gameplay is supposed to be different. It's more character focused.
But let's lift that one for next time.
Possibly.
Possibly, yeah. But like
Yeah.
if you want to talk about it next time, you write it up and yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been the tangent discussion. We didn't go off tangent too many times this time actually, which is good. And we are once again to the left, right of me. Gotta remember I'm mirrored. We have Dross 13. To the left of me, we've got Sierra 82. To the bottom left, we've got Wapox. And to the bottom right, we've got Voidhawk. Now, we hope you have all enjoyed this little talk we've been having, and we hope you will return again if you did. So, have a good one. Goodbye.
See ya.